What's up guys, welcome to this new video about how to get started with UX, User Experience Design. One of the most asked questions I'm getting from my community on Instagram and on Twitter is actually how to pivot to UX, how to get into UX without any experience, without any education, without studying UX or something like that. So how to actually get started with UX. So this whole video will be about tips and tricks I can recommend you if you want to pursue a career in user experience design. So first of all, if you're interested in working in UX, if you want to start a career in user experience design, congratulations. I think that's amazing. It's a really good decision. UX is the future, and this career path will definitely provide some great opportunities for you. What do you do when you work as a UX UI designer? So most of the times you design digital interfaces, services, products, and not only the graphical, the visual part, also the concept, the user experience part. And the area of UX UI is pretty huge. Actually, it's pretty big, and there are a lot of different areas you can focus on. The research part, the interaction part, also the area which is a little bit more focused on technology or interface, user experience, where you do much more wireframes and testing. So the demand for UX designers is actually pretty high right now, not only in Europe but all around the world, which is pretty nice if you are starting a career there, because first of all you are the chances to get a job are pretty high. You start with a really high salary, which is also pretty nice, and you will have a lot of possibilities actually throughout your career, because the area of user experience, so the connection between the human being and the computer, will definitely become much more important in the future. And today in this video we are going to talk about 9 tips I can share with you how to start a career in user experience design in the year 2021. And as many of you know, I myself pivoted to UX a few years ago because I actually studied communication design, which is much more like graphic design. And after my studies, I decided to switch to user experience design and really focus on digital design and user-centered design, which was the best decision ever. But I still remember the time when I decided that UX is the area I definitely wanted to start a career in, but I couldn't really find a job and it was really difficult. I learned a lot getting my first job and starting a career in that area, and I want to share with you my lessons learned and everything I can recommend you to do to have an easier start into that, so you can apply these steps wherever you are in your career and use them as tips, as some kind of guidance, so which will hopefully be helpful for you. So generally, a great UX designer is someone not only who solves problems, but also someone who sees problems. And I think this is a very, very important mindset for everyone who's interested in that area. Not only think about solutions and how to really solve problems, but also seeing problems in the first place and realizing that there might be better ways to do specific things. And this mindset will help you throughout your whole career by really thinking about what is the problem here. Not thinking about the solution right away, but really thinking about the problem, what might be the problem. So try to spot problems also in your daily life. Let's get started with the first tip. And the first tip would be to get started by learning the basics. How do you do that? I can highly recommend to start with some kind of a general course that also can be a bootcamp. What I can highly recommend is Career Foundry. They're based in Germany. They provide really good online courses, and you can do most of those courses actually also remote, especially nowadays. Another way is a bootcamp, which you could do for several months and really focus on one topic. There are different courses, different bootcamps, and it depends very much on what you like. There are a lot of really great free resources out there, and also a lot of really great courses on different kind of platforms like Coursera or LinkedIn Learning, or also Udemy, Skillshare. So what I would recommend is to start with some kind of a basic course where you learn about the human-centered design process, about the methods, about what is it all about, and this will actually help you to understand everything you need to know about the methods, the resources, the process, and this will really help you to understand the most important principles, different kind of methods, and this will help you to get started. So point number 2, after you did some kind of a basic course, I would recommend you to test and try out your skills, so everything you learned, so by little exercises or little tasks. And this really depends on the area you are interested in. For example, if you want to focus on interface design, I can highly recommend to start with some kind of a daily challenge or a weekly challenge where you work on something every day or every week and you have some kind of a routine. And by doing things over and over again, you automatically become better. Because from my experience, it might be a little bit scary, especially in the beginning, to get started, although you don't have a lot of experience. So what I can say to you here is, don't worry about it, although you just started. You will improve so much just by practicing and getting better and just doing things over and over again and thinking through specific problems. What I did back then was the daily UI challenge. I think this was a really great idea because you got a challenge through your mail. So they sent you one little task, just like a tiny task each day. For example, to design an onboarding animation or a sign-up flow or a landing page or an error page or a one-pager, something like that. And you design that. And you think through all the different problems. And this really helped me to try so many different things out and learn a lot. Because actually, by designing those different kind of tasks, you start to think about the different elements and problems that might happen, right? Like if we're thinking about an onboarding flow, you might think about, okay, what kind of information do I actually need there? What kind of buttons do I actually need there? Should the user be able to also sign up with specific social accounts? And you start to think about the right things, which is really helpful not only to practice and get better, but also to start prime your mindset and the way you think in the way that will be helpful for you when you start with real projects. These experiences will really help you to experiment, to gain knowledge, and also to get better, to practice a lot. Because I think the most important thing is you, especially if you're just starting out, you are not a professional yet. It's all about practicing, and then you will automatically become better. So the tools that I can recommend are actually either Figma or Adobe XD. Those two tools are the most famous tools right now. I personally would recommend you Adobe XD. First of all, it's free, and second of all, you can integrate that in your whole Creative Cloud library. So it's really nice if you do specific icons in Illustrator, for example, if you want to edit images in Photoshop and maybe also add some kind of animations in After Effects in the end. Because this is the big advantage here, and also the prototyping area is pretty nice there. So if you're also thinking about going a little bit deeper into prototyping, Adobe XD is pretty amazing. If you want to learn more about Adobe XD, make sure to check out the different videos I actually did about that. I did a lot of tutorials and masterclasses about Adobe XD, so make sure to check that out if that's interesting for you. Tip number 3 is to find inspiration. And this is something which is very motivating for me and really important to keep inspired and to focus also on the things that are possible, right? Always recommend people is to check out what other people are doing, what's on different platforms, especially if you're designing something and need some inspiration. That's completely fine. So to check out how other designers or different websites or apps have solved specific problems. There are different ways to start that. One is focusing on websites where you see a lot of really great design. You can check out Behance. There are a lot of really great projects and also design case studies, which you can save in different mood boards. And there is also Pinterest, where you can save different designs as inspirations or user flows or something like that. or also awards. I think it's a really great platform with really great websites and really good design generally if you need some inspiration. Yeah, I think Dribbble is also really nice where you can look for specific patterns or inspiration, especially when you're designing things. I think that's really great to get this kind of inspiration from the outside. But I must be honest, I'm not a huge fan of copying design work. I know designers have different views on that. I wouldn't really recommend you to copy design. I think it makes much more sense to actually come up with your own idea, but to get inspiration here and there and then combine that in a new way. Especially, I think what's always very helpful is if you are sharing your design online, even though it's not perfect, it's really great if it's unique and it's not a copy of some other design. So point number 4 is a really important one, and this is also still very important for me and I think for every designer, because point number 4 is keep learning. Although you did a course here and you did your first smaller project or whatever, always keep on learning. When you're working in tech or in design or also user experience design, you chose a career path where you are never done, where you never know enough, where you're decided to pursue a career in lifelong learning. There are always new tools coming out, always new things happening, so you're never at a point where you think, okay, now I learned enough. What would be really great for you is if you are a person who really likes to learn, who really wants to learn new things. So I can recommend you to create some kind of routine in your life, in your week, where you make time to learn something new. This could be either a specific area you want to focus on. For example, you realize during your introduction course or also during your first projects you're working on that you're especially interested in a specific areas. That might be user testing or also prototyping or workshops, design workshops, or maybe interaction design or app design or augmented reality design. So there are a lot of different areas. And then you can focus especially on that area and go a little bit deeper. And how can you do that? So what works really well for me are books. There are a lot of great books out there where you could get really great information which will be helpful for you to find what you need and just read. So I always recommend some kind of a reading routine also as the designers to get this kind of content you need. Also, there are great podcasts I can recommend you, and also a lot of really great TED Talks to keep you inspired and to get you the knowledge you actually need. And of course, there are also courses on specific topics to help you to gain the knowledge you really need, but always keep on learning. If you want to know more about resources, I can really recommend you to check out my Instagram account. I'm sharing a lot of really great resources there about podcasts, about UX and the future, and also books that I can recommend. So just make sure to check that out and say hello. And besides that, there are also other ways of learning and keep on learning. And this is definitely to focus on things you can do online. And besides that, you can also participate in hackathons and meetups, online workshops, seminars. So all those things are also right now during COVID online. But if they're in person or online, it doesn't really matter. The most important thing is that you do that and that you keep on practicing and use the knowledge and always make sure to learn more in whatever kind of area it is. So in the next point number 5 is, I think, really important because this is asking for feedback. And this might be a little bit challenging, especially if you are alone, if you are somewhere working in a completely different area and you need feedback from people to really improve your designs or also your user flows or your testing, or if you want to know if it's done right. So, because most of the times, right, if you're working somewhere or even if you're working in a company where you are working, I don't know, in customer service, for example, but there is a design team, you could for sure reach out to the designers and ask them for feedback. Or if you know designers, you could ask for feedback. That's really, really great. Especially if they're more advanced and if they know what they're doing, if they're a little bit more senior, it's always great to ask them for advice, for feedback, and for really critiquing your work. If you don't have colleagues who could do that, it's also possible to go to portfolio review sessions. I know that Adobe sometimes offers that, but it depends a little bit on the event. But there are from time to time a few of those things. Also, a lot of people offering that online right now, where you could like send in your portfolio, and they're doing a portfolio critique session where you get feedback on your work. And I think another option is to upload your work publicly on Behance, on Dribbble, and then text or like DM designers you admire, you think who are really great, and ask them if they have time to critique your work. There are some people who really love to do that, and they are also offering that. And some people also have some kind of mentoring sessions. You can just like book a slot online for an hour or so, and then you can ask them to critique your work. I think it's really helpful, and was also really helpful for me back then when I was a junior designer, and the critique was really helpful for me back then. But I think what's very important here is critique sometimes can be frustrating, and don't take that personal. Sometimes people don't know how to give critique the best way. So always make sure to not take that personal. You are just a beginner, and it's completely fine if not everything's perfect, and that you are learning. So don't get frustrated if things didn't turn out the way you want, or if you get like a really harsh critique. That's completely normal. You are just a beginner, and it will get better, so don't worry about that. Keep positive there and keep on learning. Step number 6, and this is the step actually where it really gets interesting, because now you start to design your first projects, your first real designs. You did a lot of like practicing with different challenges, you did a course, you learned a lot during the way, so now is a really good time to have like one bigger problem which you can actually solve. And this, of course, with the human-centered design approach. First you look for some kind of a problem you can solve, and then you use the methods you learned, right? Like you go from research to a concept, wireframes, synthesizing everything with like personas, user journey, whatever kind of tools you're going to use there, and then you come up with wireframes, the design, prototype, and also testing, right? So that's, I think, really important here. So if you don't have a project you can work on, here are a few things I can recommend you. First of all, you could redesign an existing product or service, right? So if you have a specific app you think would need some kind of a redesign, or where you see some problems, just create a redesign. That's the first option. Another option would be to identify problems around you. So maybe you talked with people, or also you noticed yourself a few problems here and there, and you come up with a completely new solution which really solves that problem with a digital product or service. There are also some websites, I'm going to link them here in the box below, offer specific design challenges for you if you don't have a briefing or something, and if you don't want to come up with a specific problem. There are problems online which you could use and focus on, and just like create a design project around those challenges. And I think the fourth option is actually to collaborate with other people. That might be other designers or developers, or maybe also people from startup or with a business background who want to design a prototype or come up with their own ideas. Most of the times also other people who are starting out need projects for their portfolio, especially developers need designers to come up with projects, and it's really helpful to collaborate here. Will also be very helpful for you, and you will gain a lot of experiences. So the last option is also to work for non-profit organizations who need the design support. You have the knowledge and you know that you can really help them. I think it's also a great way to support others, especially companies who can't afford a proper designer because they are not earning any money, and it's also really nice to do something for them and support them with your design skills here. And you will learn so much on the way. So I personally don't think that you always need to work for money. Sometimes you don't get money, but you get a lot of experiences or exposure. You never really know, because with those projects you can actually apply for your job and you can put them in your portfolio. So this is sometimes much more valuable than the actual money you are getting for something, especially if you're just working out and you're not perfect. So it's really great if you either work on your own projects, or if you work with people who know that you're just a beginner and let you experiment and try things out, and also let you fail at some point, right? Because that's completely normal. Point number 7 is portfolio, because at some point you need to summarize everything you did. Maybe you worked on multiple projects and everything, and you need to summarize that somewhere in a specific portfolio where you design UX case studies. And those UX case studies summarize the project you're working on by guiding the viewer through the whole process you went through, right? Like identifying the problem, doing user research, coming up with first sketches, wireframes, prototype maybe, and then the design style guide maybe, and also the testing. In whatever kind of method, like in whatever kind of parts of the design process you were involved, sometimes it's just like the beginning of user research and the concepting, and someone else did the design, that's also completely fine. Or you only were involved in the testing, that's also fine. Those case studies really help the recruiter to understand on what kind of projects you worked on. So where can you actually host your portfolio? I would recommend to host it somewhere online. PDFs are very outdated and not the best solution for you, especially if you want to work in tech. The problem with PDFs are that you can't really integrate interactive elements and videos, and you can do that on your website or in specific platforms where you can upload your work. So, first of all, there are the options like social platforms, right? Like Behance, for example, or Adobe Portfolio. Both are really great because you can upload different projects, and it's already on there, it's hosted there, and you get a lot of eyes on your projects by just hosting them there. I have a Behance account and I think it's really helpful. I got a lot of clients through Behance just by uploading my work there, and automatically, because it's a community around that, a lot of people are checking that out, saving my work, and a lot of clients reached out because of Behance, which is really great. But if you want to focus a little bit more on your website, because you're thinking about maybe also integrating a blog or a little bit longer about section, or maybe also a shop at some point, I could highly recommend to create your own website, and either by using specific services like Squarespace or Wix, for example, or you could also code your own website or ask a developer to code your own website if you have some personalized ideas. If you have your own website, make sure to integrate an about section where you explain a little bit about your way into design or into tech, or where you also explain a little bit about your background and what you did, what kind of skills, or what really makes you unique as a designer. I think it's really helpful and really interesting for recruiters or also for clients if they want to hire you. So, and point number 8, personal branding and networking, I think is also a very important point, because you need to make sure that you really connect to the right people, that you build a network around you with the people who are inspiring to you, who really help you, who you could reach out to if you have questions, or also people who might refer you to jobs or who can help you, especially if you are planning to work as a freelance designer at some point. It's very important to have a network of people who are maybe looking for a designer. I think you are a really great fit. With networking, it's also that you really tell your personal story about what is your goal and what actually happens there. Also, if you have a specific goal, for example, you want to work in healthcare as a UX designer, and you can tell people that, tell your story where your goal is, and maybe at some point, some of the people you told, someone from your network, know someone who needs a designer in healthcare, for example, then really recommends you to that specific job. That's really helpful. So, how can you build a network and how can you actually reach out to people? Few options here. First of all, of course, in person, right? If you are at a conference, at a meetup somewhere, just like talk to people. There are a lot of networking events. I know this is scary, and this is also not my favorite thing to do, to just like go to people, but sometimes you already know someone and then they can recommend you and you can start a nice conversation. What works really well for me back then, before COVID, was just like asking questions to people, like also speakers at conferences, ask a question about the talk or something like that, and then usually conversation really starts and you notice pretty fast actually if it's a nice conversation and if this is helpful. And then you can add those people on LinkedIn, write a follow-up message and connect with them. I think it's really awesome to stay connected there and see what they're doing, what they're working on, and also for them to see what you are working on and what you are doing. So don't be afraid to show yourself online, also on the big platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn, and in Germany we also have Xing. And those are very important for designers, to be present there, to interact with people and content there, and also share things you achieved. Maybe you wrote a specific article about a topic, you went to a conference and you had some learnings. Make sure to share it there and be a part of that awesome community, because that will be really helpful for you and to be seen as a great designer. Can also super easily reach out to people. I did that several times, that I met someone on LinkedIn, or I found someone I'm really admiring, and then I just texted them real quick a super nice message, and we connected and we had a chat, or I invited them for a really short video call, and this was really helpful for me to build some kind of a connection. I can recommend that to everyone. Just reach out to people and ask them about things you're interested in, if you have questions to them, or ask them for a video call, or whatever you really need from them. But also make sure that your first sentence, if you're texting someone, is not "I need" or "I want," but start with questions and be nice. People are usually busy, but if they are seeing someone who's really passionate and interested in a specific topic they are maybe also interested in, they are probably going to respond. Besides that, it's also really great to start some kind of a personal branding on your social networks, maybe on your Instagram account or on other networks you are active. Could be Dribbble, that you're uploading your designs there, or Behance, right, that you are creating an account there. Also Twitter, and that you become a part of the community there, that you're reaching out to people, sharing content there, and you really get seen as a designer or a user experience designer who has something to say there, who has an opinion. I think it's really great for you in whatever direction your career really goes. If you are just starting out, it's okay to make mistakes, and that not everything is 100% perfect. That's totally normal. So keep on practicing, keep on learning, and if you are passionate about the area, everything will come in a way that you really want it to be. Just believe in your skills and don't be scared to fail at some point. You will learn so much on the way, and I hope the tips were helpful for you. If this was helpful, feel free to like, to subscribe to this channel. Also say hi on Instagram, or if you have questions, write them in the comments. I'm super happy to answer them. And thank you so much for watching, and see you next Wednesday.